Okay, welcome everybody to this auspicious council meeting, because it's the first time this new council has actually been meeting face to face in the chamber for well over a year. So we're very pleased to be here. So we have councillors at the table around on the screen tonight. We have our three directors. So Director Mark Florence, Director Community and Economic Development, Greg Pinkerton, Director of Planning and Corporate Services. Our acting Director for Infrastructure Services is Ewan Oldmeadow, and that's because we have Ian Ellett acting as our CEO. So I'd like to welcome the staff as well, and we have Jane in the chamber, our governance. Jane's still our governance advisor. So welcome everybody. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. We acknowledge the original custodians of the lands that we're meeting on from right across the Shire tonight, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and welcome any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who are watching the meeting this evening. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire, and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We're all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions with our skills and judgment. Do I have any apologies and leave of absence?
Trevor Orino,
our CEO, who is hopefully having a great holiday, as he well deserved.
I reckon he'll be watching.
If you're watching, turn it off. Any declarations of conflict of interest?
Sorry, I don't.
I think, Councillor, you said it was item
11.1. I'll be declaring a general conflict of interest at item 11.1. Would you like me to read it out now or save it for the item?
You can save it for the item.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. So, condolence motion. Councillor Goldsmith?
Yes, I do have one. My condolences to Patricia Wilson on the passing of her husband, William Bill Wilson, APM OAM. Bill spent almost 40 years in the Northern Territory. He joined the Northern Territory Police in 1969 and served throughout the Territory before retiring at the rank of Assistant Commissioner in 1996. Bill was awarded the Australian Police Medal and the Medal of the Order of Australia in 2002 for services to the community of the Northern Territory, particularly through the Australian Red Cross, historical organisations and volunteer firefighting. Following retirement, he undertook a PhD in history at the Northern Territory University and lectured there in history and politics before taking up a role in the Support and Equity Division at the university. He was the president of the Rotary Club. He moved down to Beechworth. He was the president of the Rotary Club at Beechworth in 2011, 2012. He co-initiated the charter members. He was a co-initiator and charter member of the Rotary E Club. He was a Paul Harris Fellow and Foundation Major Donor. He was Assistant Governor between 2013-14. He was a District Secretary between 2015 and 16. He was instrumental in obtaining a grant for the Zwar generator for the Old Cranks Club. He supported the Kerr Federation for many years. He wrote a short history of the old Beechworth jail called Custow's Castle in 2018. It was from 1853 through to 1900. Bill spent many hours down at the State Library researching. Prior to Bill's passing, he was working on an important part of Beechworth's history. Bill passed away on the 26th of February 2001. He was a very private person and will be greatly missed. From a personal perspective, he was the one that introduced me to the Rotary Club, and I'm grateful for him. So I'd like to move that a motion of condolence be made and a letter and a seal go to his wife.
Okay, anyone to second that? Councillor Gaffney. All those in favour? Carried. So item 6 is community and council achievements. Got anything to note tonight? Okay, well, we know there's been lots of achievements, but we won't list them right now. Oh,
will we mention this now?
You certainly can, Councillor.
Just like to make note that the Kiwa Kangamalanga Lions Club are running their milk run. It was missed out last year, like a lot of COVID events as well. And it's a major event over, and it starts at the Huon Reserve, and is on Sunday, April the 18th at 10 o'clock.
Excellent.
So we'd love to see as many
Congratulations.
people to go over, and it's a big effort to give it a go because with COVID and everything, absolutely.
Councillor Gaffney.
I'd also like to mention that at Easter and beginning on Friday, the Golden Horseshoes Festival will be taking part in Beechworth from Good Friday until Easter Sunday. It also couldn't be held last year because of COVID-19 restrictions.
Yeah, so it is great to see these festivals and
Yeah, it's starting
events
to come up.
back happening again, and congratulations to all of the committees. Also, we mentioned the Children Rodeo was able to run their annual rodeo. It was their 25th year this year, and they managed to get that happening. So there's been a lot of things actually happening around as people are getting their events back, and it's wonderful to see that. So congratulations to all of the volunteers who have been involved in those. Okay, so item 6 is confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. The recommendation is that council confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 23rd of February 2021 as published on the council website. Do I have someone to move that? I have Councillor Shepherd, thank you. And Councillor Croucher. Do you wish to speak to that motion, councillors?
No.
All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 7.1 is suspension of the standing orders for open forum, but we actually don't have any questions for open forum tonight, so I won't put item 7.1 there. But I will make a note that at the moment we're still requiring open forum to be sent in, open forum questions to be sent in, and for me to read them out. But we are really hoping with the change in restrictions, all things being well, that we will be able to have a gallery or at least a small number of people attending in person. So we'll let you know about that as soon as we can. Business arising from the previous meeting. There were no questions on notice, and I gather we have no petitions for item 7. So, oh, sorry, is that item 7? Doesn't really matter. Item 9.
Page 7.
Yeah. Okay, so item 10.1 is the February finance report. And the recommendation is that council accepts the February 2021 finance report. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney. Yep, Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, we've been through this as an entirety of council sitting before the Chief Financial Officer, and I think we're all seem to be pretty happy with it. The one note that I would make is that spending is up on last year in relation to capital works, and as a percentage of the budget, capital works at that time is also up. So whilst it's a $12 million budget on capital works, the infrastructure department are doing well and delivering.
Thank you very much to that department who have really done a great job given all of the disruption that we've had over the last 12 months, and great to see that work continuing. Councillor Gaffney, do you want to add anything?
I'd just like to add, Madam Mayor, that the lead up to the snow season looks very positive, and we're hoping for a very good year, particularly for Buller Gas. For the end of 2017-2018, we had a net surplus of $650,000, which is equivalent to a 5.41 rate increase. And we're looking forward to another bumper year in 2021. Things are looking positive at this stage.
Great. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Someone? No, okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 10.2, planning permit application PP 160035 94 Indigo Creek Road, Indigo Valley. The recommendation is that council issue a notice of decision to approve an amendment to planning permit PP 160035 for the development of a 75,000 litre self-funded fuel cube at 94 Indigo Creek Road, Indigo Valley, subject to conditions. Do I have someone to move that?
I'll second it.
Councillor Goldsworthy moves, second by councillor Cratchit. Councillor Goldsworthy.
So this one's been on the cards for a while. Initially, there was a decision by council to allow a development there. Unfortunately, the fuel cube was moved into a location that hasn't been approved by council. And this hopes to rectify that position by imposing a number of conditions, and primarily they'll be around putting down a concrete base at the rear of the shed so it can't be seen, and for the fuel cube to be moved around there. We can only hope that the applicant in this matter abides by the conditions.
Councillor Cratchit.
Yeah, well, look at extensive report, and I've read it pretty thoroughly. And as long as the conditions included in the permit are adhered to, and that the establishment is not being used as a service station, the addition of the fuel cube to fund the trucks in that particular designated area, I believe, is warranted.
Okay, thanks, councillor. Any other? Yes, councillor Shepherd.
This is a concerning one for me. There are 5 objections, and I think their objections are warranted because the conditions haven't been met. People complaining of trucks moving in the middle of the night. The fuel cube that was put there was being used for public use. It was put at the front, which it's a rural area that needs farming zone, needs, you know, it's not a sightly thing. The amenity for the locals has been, you know, the noise and the egress and going back and forth of the trucks is annoying. I get that. But it's a decision we made earlier, and it makes sense to, I suppose, to have a fuel cell with a trucking depot. But if these conditions aren't being met, I think the community who are concerned and have put in their submissions, they really need to let us know. And then we need to enforce these conditions, because you know, you wouldn't want to be living next to something that's leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning when the time is meant to be 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Sunday. So there's lots of conditions that have to be met, and with those conditions, I think it might work for the people that live around it. But I understand their concern, and I hope that these conditions are going to be met.
Okay, thanks, councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Yes, councillor Price.
It's not something that we like to see, that you have to bring a retrospective application. You know, there is a proper process that should have been undertaken here, and we would have been able to accommodate a lot more of these things in the original application, like in a proper process. So as Councillor Shepherd said, there's lots of conditions there that we will be looking to make sure are abided by, so that there is no, or as minimal loss to amenity in the area as is possible. And just because this is approved, I don't think that means that we take our eye off what's going on here, because there has been lots of contact with the community about this site. But I also hope that this application resolves some of the issue with that site, and that the conditions go some way to doing that as well.
Yeah, thanks, councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Okay, councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to sum up?
Yep, just that I agree with the concerns that have been raised, and it will be something that we'll have to continue to monitor and enforce where required.
Okay. So I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Approved. Thanks, councillors. 10.3, planning permit application PP 200212 of 1 High Street, Yakandanda. The recommendation is the proposed 3-lot subdivision of land at 1 High Street, Yakandanda be refused, and issued a notice of decision to refuse based on the following grounds. The proposal is inconsistent with the following objectives of the state and local planning framework, and that's laid out there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 of those. The proposal is inconsistent with the purpose of the commercial zone as contained within clause 3401 of the Indigo planning scheme. The proposal is inconsistent with the purpose of the heritage overlay as contained within clause 43 of the Indigo planning scheme. The proposed subdivision will result in poor design outcomes for future commercial development on the site, as a consequence of the size and configuration of the lots and the ability to provide for car parking, and the proposed subdivision fails to demonstrate orderly planning of the area. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Shepherd, do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, I think the motion says it really. All of those areas, we went and looked at the site and there were concerns around the heritage aspect of it, the reflection on the rest of the buildings in the street, the fact that it lends itself to a multi-storey building with no parking. Parking would have to happen on the street. And as we are aware, Yakandanda is very much under pressure for parking. It'd be very small frontage. The parking will go, and the rubbish area for the hotel, which is of concern as well. And it's a commercial zoned space that is limited in Yakandanda. So as per the list of the concerns by the planning department, I support those concerns.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price.
I'll reserve my right.
So you're right. So anyone else wish to speak to this?
Sure.
Yes, Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'm not in entire support of the recommendation. I believe that, and we're making a decision on the application that's been put towards us, but a two-lot subdivision would be a better planning outcome. But having said that, I believe that the application as it stands is consistent with our planning scheme, and that two lots with 10 metres of frontage each is sufficient in a commercial zone, and it would be potentially a commercially viable proposition to have commercial businesses down there. I think that'll be dependent on the supply and demand of commercial blocks in that area. And as already mentioned, it's one of the last ones around. It's incumbent on council to rezone if required. So I don't believe that that particular aspect should be taken into consideration. I believe the blocks are a sufficient size that they could be of a commercial use and not inappropriately developed in an area that is of some historic significance.
Okay. Councillor Gaffney.
The proposal is inconsistent with the objectives and purpose of the state and local government framework, as well as the purpose of the commercial one zone. I'll be voting recommendation.
Councillor Horn, did you wish to say something?
Yes, I think we have to be ever vigilant about keeping the personality and the character of our towns, and I think this is in line with that.
The recommendations in
The recommendation is, yeah.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Price, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Yes, I do. I think that in a town like Yakandanda, where there's limited opportunity for us to do such a thing, we should always be looking for the best outcome. And it's not necessarily whatever outcome is provided for in an application, we should be looking for the best outcome. And the planning department have clearly identified that this is not the best outcome for what could happen on that site. And so I don't think that we should be compelled to accept that. And I'll be voting with the recommendation tonight that it's refused. I think it's an overdevelopment of that site. And I think that we owe it to the town of Yakandanda, who've just completed a placemaking plan, and development has been such a big discussion as part of that, to see that a site like this is appropriately developed for the future.
Thank you. And Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to sum up?
Just think this sentence, officers suggest it would be a poor strategic decision to allow a potential commercial site with direct street access to be developed for residential purposes in these circumstances. And I think that sums it up for me. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put the motion to refuse the permit, the application, sorry, all those in favour? And against? All right, so just for the record, those in favour, again, we've got Councillor Horn, Councillor Gaffney, Councillor Croucher, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Price, Councillor O'Connor, and against Councillor Goldsworthy. Okay. So 11.1 is the local sport infrastructure grants. And councillor, would you like to just explain your conflict?
Yeah, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest. I'm declaring a general conflict of interest as I have a close family member who's involved with the Chiltern Football Netball Club Committee and the Management Committee for the same reserve.
Okay, so I think what we're going to do is put the recommendation while you're here, councillor Price, leaving out the bit that you have a conflict with, and then we'll come back to that when you're out of the room. So in general, the recommendation is that council acknowledges the challenges associated with the timing of the grant application process as set by the state government and the timing of the consideration by council of the proposed applications. Retrospectively endorses the following projects for submission as application to the 2021 Local Sport Infrastructure Fund grant process. One is Butson Park Yakandanda lighting project. The second one is one that we'll discuss when Councillor Price has left the room. And that we make immediate representation of the state government to have it reinstate a more general funding stream category to enable small rural councils to maximise opportunities under the grant program. And the reason we put that there is that this is quite limited, in fact, in who could apply. So do I have someone to move that? As it stands, Councillor Price will move that. Councillor Crouch is seconder. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to this part of the motion?
Yeah, I do. Firstly, to talk about the grant application process, just reflected on a previous item about retrospective applications. And then this is what the state government is asking us to do in this case. They set a timeline that means that we can't bring these items to council before the closure date for these funds. And it means that in previous times we've had a number of applications to a significant monetary value that we've been able to put forward. And the Butson Park Yakandanda lighting project, although very valuable, is not as significant a project as we've seen be put up previously. And so that's frustrating at local government level. I'm pleased to see that project be put up through the grant process. But the other thing that I would say is that we are at a significant risk to our local sport infrastructure with the Sport and Recreation Victoria grants changing. There's no longer a general category, which was where we had our most success in recent years, and it was for a much more significant amount of money than what we can apply for here. And we did a lot of work with our Active Indigo recreation strategy to really make sure that we had strategic justification for a number of significant projects. And now we're left at a loose end with those because we don't have this grant program to be able to feed them into. So it sends us back to the drawing board as a small rural council to find other projects that are shovel ready, and we will find them. But that's why I think it's important that we make that representation to the state government, because that's part of our frustration. We are so grant dependent, and then things like this change and it makes it even more frustrating for us. So I'm pleased to see that we'll be making those representations, and I hope that you make that representation to Rural Councils Victoria as well, Madam Mayor. But overall, I'd be pleased to see that the Butson Park Yakandanda lighting project is put forward for that grant process. And hopefully we've got more projects listed for this same fund for next year with more time to prepare.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Croucher?
Look, I can only say that the local sports infrastructure grants, it looks very, very good to me, because in the past I can see the ones that have benefited greatly from it. In particular, I know Colson Park at Tangam, their lighting project has been great. I noticed this new skate park at Yakandanda and the Wurrigi tennis court development which is taking place. This is a real sporting shire, this shire, and these are great opportunity for people to go for these infrastructure grants, and I take on board what you said. So,
okay, anyone else wish to speak to this motion? All right, well, I'll put the motion as stands. All those in favour? Carried. Okay, Councillor Price, if you leave the room, we'll consider whether there's another subject which should also be included. Okay, so councillors, the second project that was recommended was the Chiltern Recreation Reserve electronic scoreboard project. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak to it, councillor?
I do. I agree with Councillor Croucher. We're great sports.
We're great sports, yes.
And we need to know the score.
Okay. Very good. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to add anything as a seconder?
No, well, only just to support. I am concerned that we have got our active Indigo all set up to go for these more general grants, and we weren't able to this time. We've had to, I mean, we found two good ones, but you know, our process was for a different type of funding application. So it's annoying, but hopefully, retrospectively, now that we've approved these, or soon to approve these, we'll get that money. That'll be exciting.
Yes.
That's the next thing.
So do I have, would anyone else wish to speak to the Chiltern Rec Reserve electronic scoreboard project being included?
Oh, I'd just like to mention that there's a lot, that's something that's coming across the Shire now, our electronic scoreboards. There's quite a few of them starting to go in, and good luck to Chiltern for that. That would be great.
Okay. Anyone else wish to add anything?
Well, I'll sum up.
Yes.
It'll save the paying the under 15s $5 a match to put the score up.
I never put it up right at Beechworth either. They were always wrong.
So the $5 saving, that's excellent. Thank you for that, councillor. All right, I'm going to put the motion then as we've already passed, but we're going to include the Chiltern Recreation Reserve electronic scoreboard project. All those in favour? Carried. And I would ask that Councillor Price re-enter the room. And councillor, just in line with your request, certainly in my role as a board member of Rural Council Victoria, I'll be raising the issue that this sporting grant didn't work well for rural councils who need the more general capacity.
Hopefully being on the Mayor's advisory, sorry, is it Mayor's advisory committee to the minister, you'll be able to raise it as well.
I may well do that there as well. Yes. Okay. So item 12.1 is the February Capital Works report. And the recommendation is that council notes the Capital Works report and the year-to-date achievements in the delivery of the Capital Works program. Do I have someone to move that?
Sure.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Okay, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Is there any questions? Councillor.
Yes.
Ask questions now?
Well, I can ask questions now. Yeah. Okay.
Clarify so people.
Oh, well, yeah, I was just, well, I'm interested in the road safety funding program, new project, of which we have $1.2 million, which is fantastic. So,
I'll ask our acting director, Ewan Oldmeadow, if you are there, Ewan. You are there. Well done. I love technology when it works. Hello, Ewan. Welcome.
Good evening, councillors.
So, did you hear the question from Councillor Shepherd?
Yeah, I think so. So look, it's a $1.2 million project. It's fully funded. It's approximately $1 million from federal funding and $200,000 from state funding. The funding's based on providing road safety initiatives. It is especially around providing cycle safety and on-road cycle safety. So one of the key initiatives of this is providing separation between cyclists and other road users. This project, it does largely relate, and the funding that's tied to it does largely relate to the Beechworth-Yakandanda rail trail in between the Yakandanda roundabout and down to the township and through the township of Yakandanda. What it does, it'll provide supplementary funding and initiatives to the existing project and get cyclists off the road, particularly along the arterial road in some key sections where we run really close to, I guess, the edge of the other vehicles on the road, that sort of thing. So we're able, with this additional funding, we're able to construct elevated platforms and other structures that actually provide that level of separation between the cyclists and the road users. It'll also do things like provide road safety barriers, footpath improvements to again get separation between cyclists and pedestrians, further signage and other sort of safety improvements, particularly down through the township of Yakandanda.
Okay, thank you, Acting Director.
yeah, so some of those, I think from the last iteration, that like going through Yakandanda was going to be perhaps not as safe. So this is going to take, as you say, it's going to take the cyclists away from pedestrians and cars.
Look, it'll provide additional safety measures, if you like. So we're still working through exactly what they look like, but it might be things like we can provide wider footpaths and greater separation and greater signage, potentially some barriers in certain areas, particularly around the school crossing zones and that sort of thing. But we're still working through that sort of finer detail with them.
Great. Well, that's exciting. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Shepherd?
Yeah, I was also interested in the Bells Flat Road. If you wouldn't mind just talking to us about what's happening with the Bells Flat Road program. I just can't find it at the moment.
Yes, so look, the Bells Flat Road, we've had some challenges with obtaining all the permits and requirements that we need to widen the road through there. We have recently just managed to obtain them, and that included the native vegetation offsets and also cultural heritage assessment. So we're now in a process of engaging again with the community along there and actually physically marking out on the road where we're intending on widening it to provide that additional bit of space that, again, it allows other road users rather than just vehicles to be able to use that corridor. So that project, it has been running a little bit behind time, but I know that it is, it's definitely coming back on track now, and there's we're certainly getting more engagement with the community over the last couple of weeks.
Great, thank you.
So I'll ask a question as well, if I may, Mayor, and that's just, could I get an update on the Epic mountain bike track, how that's progressing, whether we have permissions yet to go through the historic park?
So we're still working with Parks Victoria, Delp on obtaining the permission to go through the heritage area or through the heritage area. We're still probably a couple of months away from obtaining ministerial approval on a tourism lease agreement. Parks Victoria have supported our application, but it does still need to go to the minister, and I suspect that would still be a couple of months away from a final approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going back to the motion. Councillor Gosser. Oh yes, of course. Sorry, Councillor. Yeah.
Could you please give us an update on the Barclay Park cricket nets situation?
Yes, so we tendered the Barclay Park cricket nets a couple of months ago. The tender submissions that we received, none of them came in within our budget. So we went back to the cricket club and we went through the design again with them, and we looked at what alterations we could make, and we re-tendered it. Now, those tenders just closed yesterday, so project officers are still in the process of assessing it. So I haven't had an update since then, but I'm hoping to have something soon.
Because they were quite keen to have a roof over the top of the nets for all-weather work, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. They were keen to have that. I would point out that that wasn't part of the original funding agreement. That was something that they have asked to try and include after we'd submitted for that funding agreement. So we're trying to accommodate that as best as we can by changing the scope in other areas.
I think that's very worthwhile, particularly with the climate concerns going forward. So, yeah.
So I'll at this stage, Councillor, it's just asking questions, not sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to go back to the motion. Councillor Goldstein, do you wish to move the motion?
So this is a significant item. It's the largest item in our budget every year. It accounts for a third of what we do. We're looking at over $11 million. Over $1 million goes to a non-Indigo Shire council assets, improving those. If you have a look at the matrix that's attached to this agenda, there's 6 pages of A3 that goes through literally hundreds of projects. As I stated earlier, at item 10.1, they're ahead on the spend and ahead on the percentage of spend as well. It's a significant actions that have been taken by our infrastructure services. They should be commended for it, and I can only hope they reach close to delivery of all items. With the weather we're having this week and hopefully a little bit into the future, hopefully it's good weather to get the hard work done.
Okay, and Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to second that?
No comments.
Is there right? Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Okay, do you want to add any summing up comments?
Keep up the good work.
Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And yes, thank you. And also for the reports that you provide, because there's a lot of work goes into just giving us the reports on the work you're doing. So we really greatly appreciate that. And thank you, Acting Director Ewan Old Meadow, for your contribution to this meeting. Okay, item 12.2, Beechworth to Yakandanga Rail Trail. Oh, actually, you're still there. Aren't you? The recommendation is, sorry. The recommendation is that council directs the CEO to progress the development of the Beechworth to Yakandanga Rail Trail to comply with the requirements of the funding agreement and to a standard generally consistent with the already constructed sections of the trail. Notes that the total project cost is estimated to exceed the budget by approximately $750,000, and that this is proposed to include an allocation in the draft 2021-22 capital budget to cover this additional cost, and notes that the recent grant funding received has freed up funds from forward capital works planning to help cover this funding shortfall in this project. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
I spoke previously about the significance of our capital works and the sheer cost of them. This is certainly up there. This is the largest infrastructure project, I believe, that council has undertaken in its history. It is significant, will make a difference to our communities, to how we're perceived in the wider cycling community, and hopefully it'll be a huge draw card to get people into the area. We need to finish this. There's only the one contract that's yet to be let to complete all stages of this project. It's unfortunate that we've had the cost overrun by $750,000. It's primarily due to changes in the biodiversity offsets. When this project was initially scoped and then funded, it was for a set amount, and the introduction of legislation after that has basically been responsible for this excess. The staff should be commended for their diligence, their work towards this, and the achievements to date, and how they've overseen this project, and they will deliver, I'm confident, a world-worthy project.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd.
I'd reserve my.
Reserve your right. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion?
Yeah,
Councillor Crouch.
I just feel that the priority should be given to ensure the completion of the Beechworth to Yakandanga Rail Trail, so that we can start thinking about extending the trail to Huon Reserve and Dangambalanga.
Phase 2.
We would all love to see that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So would. And that is in the planning for phase 2. We just got to try and get the money. Anyone else wish to speak to this project? Councillor Gaffney.
Well, we all know that this is a state government project. It's the biggest commitment of funds that Indigo Shire has had. In 2017, 2018, the Premier Daniel Andrews and Minister Jarla Pulford and Minister Jacqueline Symes came to Yakandanga and announced the NEVCO project, which is North East Victoria Cycle Optimisation. They committed $11.4 million to the project, 5.2 for the Beechworth to Yakandanga Rail Trail, with Indigo Shire having to put in $1 million. They said $4 million for marketing. I believe that money has already been spent by Tourism Northeast on cycling the high country, and 2.2 million for a private partnerships. I'm not sure whether all of that money has been spent or whether there's some over. I just wonder why the impost for the ratepayers of Indigo Shire have to put in $750,000 to finish the project. The question I asked, will that be enough? It was only a couple of meetings ago, we took $300,000 from a federal infrastructure grant and put it towards this project. So Indigo Shire has doubled its commitment from 1 million to 2 million. The $750,000 is equivalent to a rate rise of 6.25%. It's a major impost, and other projects won't get done. I just wonder, is there any guarantee that this will be enough money, or will we have to dip in again?
Are you Are you asking CEO, acting CEO?
Or we can ask the acting director. I don't mind.
I might go to the acting CEO on this one.
Look, I would like to be able to give you an absolute guarantee. All we can do is provide the best information we can. As we've progressed and issued each tender, we've obviously become closer to the end, and there's a lot more confidence in our pricing. Until we get to this point in the conversation, we've not even done the detailed design on the route. So, look, we're really mindful. We've put forward a figure that we believe is adequate funding to be able to deliver that final section to meet any native veg offset costs. So, look, we're really genuine in the number we put forward, that we believe it's the right amount of extra funding to seek, but we do have to go to tender still on the final stage, so I can't give a cast iron guarantee, but a level of confidence.
On page 41, it says the council secured a grant of $1 million for the Beechworth tennis courts. We know that the Beechworth Tennis Club got over $800,000 for the sale of their old courts, and they're taking the federal government to court to get another $500,000 grant in the federal court. I'm just wondering, that makes a total of what, $2.3 million? And council's involved in the project. Is $2.3 million enough, or do they need more money?
So I'm just not sure what the relevance of that is.
It's in the report, Madam Mayor, about why we should take it from the budget.
Oh, sorry.
Page
Okay,
41.
understood. Yep, got you.
Look, I don't have enough background on the Beechworth tennis courts. I believe they're very focused on shaping their scope of works around the available budget. So I think the action they're taking to secure extra money is outside the scope of what we'd be currently looking at with the initial funding. So I think your question is that enough money? Will we be coming to council seeking more money? I can't predict what might come forward there.
The other mention is the epic mountain bike track between Beechworth and Yakandanda, which we got a federal grant in 2018, 2019 for $1 million, and the Indigo ratepayers are putting in another $1 million. My concern is if the other project of the rail trail blew out by such a large amount, is there any guarantee that this epic mountain bike track won't blow out the same?
Again, guarantees are really difficult to give. All of the planning work and our assessment of the offset costs associated with the epic trail, we believe we can deliver with the $2 million budget. But as you heard earlier, we're still working with Parks Vic to secure the route. So again, I can't give the absolute guarantees, but we're really mindful in each of these projects that we're working within the confines of the budget. We've got to work the scope to that budget, and from time to time, like in the rail trail, we'll come to council and get direction for how we proceed.
With the extra $1 million that the ratepayers have put in for the rail trail, has council approached the minister, which I think her name's Mary Ann Thomas, to see whether they would put in the extra $1 million instead of the ratepayers of Indigo Shire?
So I'm not sure who the minister is, a state minister.
Mary Ann Thomas.
Or regional development.
So there's been certainly conversations at high level, so between our chief executive and the regional director from RDV. So there's been conversations at that level ongoing for a number of months about trying to seek additional funding from the state to support this project. And I guess we're here because they've not been able to find a way to advance any further funding.
And Madam Mayor, you have got some very big grants from the state government for Indigo Shire. Would you be prepared to raise it with the minister?
We have raised it with several ministers that the native vegetation offset costs are prohibited, and that, as you rightly say, have now been borne by the ratepayers of Indigo Shire for a project that actually incorporates 4 other municipalities. And so we have raised that with Minister Symes when she was still regional development. It has been raised with RDV to go to Minister Thomas. And I've also raised it with the local government minister and with the tourism minister. So Unfortunately, none of them have seemed to be able to get us the offset funding that we've asked for. And so we're left with a situation where do we leave the thing just unfinished, or do we finish it and keep trying to get the money? That's really our decision, I guess.
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Yes, Councillor Clark.
Look, I just find it just heartbreaking that we're paying out this money, and I keep thinking of all the roads and footpaths we could have made with that $700,000. I can't get past that, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyone else wish to, Councillor Price?
I have to say I agree with what Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Horn said. I could think of much better ways for us to spend this money. It was a massive amount of money that we received, but there was always discussion about it being the low costed scenario for this project. And even with that, the original budget for the native vegetation offsets was so much smaller than the position that we've arrived in now because of the legislation change. And so similar to speaking about the previous item about the infrastructure, the sport infrastructure grants, the goalposts have changed, and we have to try and work within that and prove to the state government that we are capable of constructing such a project. I think it would be such a shame if we didn't see this project through to completion. And I too agree with Councillor Gaffney that I'm pleased to hear that we've made every possible representation to state government to see if the money could come from them, which is where we believe it should come from. It's a change in their legislation that has meant that now we're found in this position. We haven't had any success with that. And so now, unfortunately, we're left with the last position, which is to find out within our own budget. But I think that it is important that we do if that's our last resort, because within the North East Victorian Cycling Optimisation Project, this was a real priority. And so when it's recognised as such and our community shows such support for this project, then we need to make sure that it is constructed and completed so that it can add to the offering in the region and be a real draw card to come to the Indigo Shire. Dragged kicking and screaming, here we are to approve this budget overrun because of changes in state legislation.
Thanks, Councillor. Do you wish to speak a second?
I know this, the fact that we've got 1.51 million in grant funding from the local roads and community infrastructure program round 2 on top of the 1.6 million from round 1. So that means approximately 1.15 million of that would have otherwise been used to fund our priority projects in the 21-22 capital works program, and that amount of money has been freed up. So I mean, as we've all said, we could have been using that money somewhere else instead of having to use it on the $750,000 shortfall from the native vegetation offset. But at least having had that funding, it's in our budget already. So we're not going to be putting ourselves under any straitened circumstances. So annoying as it is, it would be great to have it finished.
And Councillor Goldsworthy, would you like to sum up?
Yes, we have been the recipient as a Shire of some significant grants, the gift horse. So as listed at the bottom of page 41, there's $6 million worth of grants that council has received from the state government. There's another couple of $1 million federal grant stimulus that we've been the recipient of, and we have a $650,000 grant application in with RDV at the moment. Whilst they may not fund directly and say this is for the biodiversity offsets, I believe that there has been significant funding poured into the Indigo Shire in compensation for what they can't potentially fund directly. They may not wish to spend money like that on the biodiversity offsets, but they're certainly being quite generous towards us. And it brings it back to this project and what it's all about. And it is about boosting tourism. The $300,000 that was alluded to earlier with the grant will be for a footpath through Yakandanda There'll be lots of activity. There'll be lots of movement by our young people that'll be safe. Lots of movement by our older people that'll be safe, and there'll be lots of tourists that come in. We've got to embrace this project and get it done.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? 5. And against? All right. So those in favour? Councillor Price, Councillor Goldsworthy, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Croucher, Councillor O'Connor. Against? Councillor Horn and Councillor Gaffney. Have you got all of that down? Recorded? Great. Thank you. All right, item 13.1 is the council gift and hospitality policy. The recommendation is that council adopt the council gift and hospitality policy, and note that this policy was adopted by council on the 27th of March. That the policy adopted by council on the 27th of March 2018 continues to apply to employees until the review of the Employee Code of Conduct in accordance with section 49(5) of the Local Government Act 2020. Okay, so do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. Councillor Goldsworthy.
We never want to be party to accusations of corruption or accepting gifts that are inappropriate. This sets out the standard. We need to adhere to the standard.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
Yeah, as it says in the report, this is one limb of the integrity provisions within the Act, and so it's appropriate and mandatory for us to develop a policy as such, and we always want to be seen to be holding ourselves to the highest standard of account, and this is just another one of those examples.
And so anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Shepherd.
Just, it's rather obvious, I know, but I think it's worth bringing out that gifts really, accepting a gift puts you in a problem area of you may be conflicting yourself in terms of a conflict of interest. That the gift may have behind it something, an expectation of a vote or whatever. So you know, it's maybe in the old days you could accept a bottle of wine, but nowadays, from this policy, our first thing is to refuse really, if we can, and to not get ourselves in those issues where we may be conflicted. So great to have this here, and great for the community to be able to see what the expectation is too.
Thank you.
Just a question.
Yeah,
can you accept a gift, say a bottle of wine that's valued at less than $30? Are you allowed to accept that?
Yeah, $50 it is now.
Oh, up to 50. So that's acceptable?
Yeah.
You need to declare it.
You have to do a gift you have to put on the gift register.
Yeah, of course, but it wouldn't be in breach of this policy.
No. Well, the thing is, if it's given and you're you're emceeing or you're doing something in terms of your role as a councillor, yes, I think you can accept a small gift, but it still needs to go on the register.
I think it would be rude to not accept.
That's right, and that's part of the policy. When it's rude to not accept it, then yes, that you can accept the plum jam, Bernie.
Jim James. Thank you very much, Councillor Shepherd.
I just want to check in with our governance expert, Ms. Jane Still. Is that correct? We just want to make sure we got this really clear. If you're offered a bottle of wine that's worth less than $50, can you accept it?
You can, if you can't fulfil the idea that the first response is refusal. There needs to be a genuine offence or difficulty caused by refusal, not just I feel a bit uncomfortable refusing it.
So you can't just go, oh, thanks. You've got to go, no, I don't want it. Please, councillor, you must. Oh, all right then. Yes, okay. Thank you. Anyone else got any questions or wish to speak to this motion? I'm going to come back to the
Look, it's also about perception, not just the reality of it. So we need to act in accordance with the policy as developed.
Right, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 13.2 is the Melbourne Cup Public Holiday, and the recommendation is that council declares the Melbourne Cup Public Holiday for the municipal district of Indigo Shire, that it's held on the first Tuesday in November for the next 4 years. Do I have someone to move that? I'm going to Councillor Gaffney, seconder. Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney.
For some people, it's a day that they look forward to over the calendar year. And I think it's important that we keep in step with our schools and our businesses. And a lot of people take the long weekend. It's very good for tourism in Indigo Shire and very good for the businesses.
Councillor Crawford.
I just concur with councillor Gaffney. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this motion?
Would be brave to change it.
That is right.
Welcome to the wide ranging decisions of council. Who would have ever thought that this is something that we would have to decide?
And can I also add, in some way, by saying Tuesday is a holiday, are we suggesting Monday ends up one, doesn't it really?
For many people.
I know,
And
and they take the Monday off, that's right.
Days then.
And that means we get lots of visitors to Indigo Shire, which is great. And those of us that feel it's too busy can go somewhere else for a long weekend. All right, so I'm going to put them, oh, sorry, Councillor Gaffney, you wish to
Just
sum
going
up.
to say, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, nearly forgotten.
I feel really good about moving this motion.
What, you got a horse in the cart? Have you?
I'm not surprised that Councillor Gaffney is a keen supporter of the Melbourne Cup. All right, so all those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 18.3 advisory committee minutes. The recommendation is that council receives the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes and endorses the officer comments. Do I have someone to move that?
I mean,
I've got Councillor Cratchit to move. I've got Councillor Goldsworthy with a second. Councillor Cratchit.
I just think it's great for council to be able to have a look at what's going on throughout our shire via these committees, which is really, really good. And I'd just like to endorse the officers' comments and what they have to say about them.
Great. Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy.
No, we've already acted on the resolution from the Indigo Shire Grants Committee Awards committee. That was last meeting, so we've done that. And changing the wording on the application form to request an AGM financial statement. That sounds like a good idea as well. So I'm happy to support.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Do you wish to sum up, Councillor?
No, there's no need to sum up.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thanks, councillors. And 13.4 is the informal meetings of council's record, used to be called Assembly of Councillors. The recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meetings of council's records. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Horn, do I have a seconder? Shepherd. Councillor Horn, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, no, it's just a matter of process. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shepherd? Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. There are no notices of motion tonight. Councillor reports. Anyone wish to make a report? Tonight, Councillor Price.
Just to add to your comments, I wasn't at the February meeting, so I didn't get to make any comments, but to add to yours about the Chiltern Rodeo, what an effort to get an event, any event underway at the moment. There are so many hoops to jump through, and volunteers already have a lot to do within the event itself without meeting all of the COVID restrictions. And so I just take my hat off to a committee that just really barged their way through, insisted that this event could happen. And as I left the radio that night, the president said that there was 7 COVID safe officers in attendance that night, and they were all happy with how the event had been run. And so my message to the rest of the community is, if you can run the Chiltern Rodeo, I think you can run anything in COVID safe times. So go for it. Just give it a go. And it was a great night. So well done to them. And that was the last event, one of the last events before we all went into lockdown. So it had some symmetry to come full circle, and for it to be one of the first big events to come back. So well done to them.
Okay. Yes.
Could I just add to that? In the running of this milk run that we've been talking about, we've had to do 3 separate COVID. Just to get North East Water to bring water out for our runners, we had to do a complete COVID. People cannot go and help themselves the water. We've got to have a safety officer beside them to actually hand the water. Now, these are the sort of things that are really making it very, very difficult, but we're going ahead, and like the Rodeo, I'm sure that'll be successful.
Yes. And again, we mentioned that the Golden Horseshoe Festival is coming up and
Similar.
and the milk rate, well, you just talked about the milk rate, the amount of work that's gone in by these committees to meet the requirements for COVID safety is just phenomenal. So, you know, there's probably plenty we haven't even mentioned tonight that
Yes.
people are doing in their own communities, but I just really want to, you know, I think on behalf of council, just say thank you so much, because it's hard enough to do this kind of stuff without that overlay across the top of it. And I know in the case of the children rodeo, they actually had to spray paint 1 metre squares onto the grass around the entire precinct. Like, it was a massive job. In fact, someone said to me they've got, you know, they couldn't undo their finger from just like just a huge amount of additional work. That was just one example. So yeah, I think, you know, we all feel really thankful to everyone who's doing that kind of work. But yes,
I was just
Councillor.
going to say, we're very excited, and rather than, because we have the first heat of the national busking competitions coming up in August, and they're going to block the road off, and we're going to have all these wonderful people busking up and down the street. It's obviously cold weather, so it's going to be great. They have braziers, you know, to keep everybody warm, and I'm sure there'll be a touch of fortified wines being consumed. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, so it's great that we're all coming out of lockdown for now. Let's don't get a Queensland situation. So we're on the right track. And again, thank you to everybody for, you know, adhering to the restrictions as we are tonight. You know, it's just become the new normal. Are there any other reports from councillors? My diary is there for anyone that might have questions later.
Jenny, can I just?
Yes.
Sorry to bring this up, but I was just looking at the IEAC meeting minutes that are attached to here just to see if there's anything I should raise. And you're an apology for the 10th of the 2nd. So one of those is wrong. Either the mayor's diary is wrong or the one of them anyway.
Good pickup.
Well, I was just looking, I just happened to be looking at the two of them at the same time. I thought that's a bit odd. So it's only a procedural thing to change, but I just.
The question is, are you there?
Problems, I think, that night.
That was a different one. That was
Anyway.
That was the audit committee.
I'm sure everything else on here you attended and even more.
Probably more, but
Probably more.
I still think it's very important that they be accurate. And thank you for picking that up, because I didn't.
I did pick up the same thing too, but I wasn't going to.
Okay, so just going back to Jane. Jane, can you make sure that that's accurate? And my apologies for not checking it carefully.
Well,
I will next time. Decisions register is there just for information, so people can see what decisions we've made and how we carry those out. General business, do I have any? Yes, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Just a request for an update from the infrastructure director in relation to the path, the Silver Creek walking track that runs between Lake Sandville and Lake Kerford. It's now been blocked for 6 months since September of last year. It's a very busy tourist walk, both from the Silver Creek Caravan Park into Beechworth, and also a lot of walkers out to Lake Kerford. Wondering if there's any update or anything else we can do about it.
Okay, so Acting Director Ewan Olberry. I could just call you Ewan, but I'm trying to be formal. Have you got an update on that, or do you want to take that one on notice and get back to us?
Look, I might take that on notice and I'll get back to you. I know that Parks Victoria are working on it, but I will come back to you on that one.
Fantastic. Any other general business?
Can we mention the RRB thing?
Sorry?
Can we mention the RRB situation?
Well, you certainly can. And so Councillor Horns just asked me about an update around Regional Roads Victoria works to be done in Rutherglen for the bleeding seal that has been an issue. Do you want to just give an update on that one? Or actually, again, Ewan, would you like to give an update on that? Or would you prefer to let?
I might be across all the detail.
Well, I'll go to Acting CEO Ian Allen.
Thank you. Look, I will give an update, and what I thought I knew changed sort of late this afternoon in terms of timing, but we're well aware there's been issues with the sealed surface that Regional Roads Victoria put on Main Street of Rutherglen. So they've been working to rectify that. they've advised that they are going to do an asphalt treatment along the entire length of Main Street, so from Drummond Street at the west right back to the roundabout where the Chiltern Road comes in. Works will be done at night. The current dates that we've got in front of us are it'll all be night work, so over 4 to 5 nights. I've got here 3 nights maybe on the Main Street, Sunday the 11th through, this actually says through to Tuesday the 20th. That doesn't make sense, 20th of March. There's a typo in that email. My understanding was 3 to 4 days as an estimate, with some other works sort of during the day, but won't impact on traffic. So look, night works over those few days, I think starting Sunday 11th of April. Everyone on impacted routes will be letter dropped. I think all of the businesses are going to be dropped. So this is probably information coming out fairly soon from Regional Roads Victoria staff. We're happy to share their information as it comes to hand, and obviously working with their contractor to pinpoint dates. But look, there'll be a little bit of inconvenience. Traffic will have to be diverted over those night hours that they're working onto adjacent streets, but hopefully a little bit of pain for long-term gain. I think there'll be a fantastic outcome for the road surface in the Main Street.
Okay.
Absolutely delighted.
Yes, Councillor Hons, very happy. We're all happy about that. And the only other thing I would quickly mention is that we've had 6 out of 8 of the community forums for the council plan. Thank you to all of the community that have come along and to the councils and staff that have been attending those. We've had some fantastic input from people. We've got 2 to go. So Chiltern and Barnawartha, and I've got the date right in front of me.
7th
of April.
7th of April. So hoping to see, as many of you as are interested from Chiltern and Barney to come along to those. And again, I just want to thank everyone for their input into the council plan process. So we have no business for confidential tonight. Are there any other general business items? Okay, I'm going to call the meeting closed at 7:35 p.m. See you on 27th of April at 6:30. Thank you, everyone.